and cut off the clear cover, put it on your clipboard, and then you use the back to protect your clipboard when you're not using it. But the advantage of this is it allows you to put whatever, including the leaf, in it. And when you check on your print, you can just lift it up. Oh, put put the plastic over it first, okay? And lift up your positive to see if you have anything developing yet. Now, with the contact printers, they have to be cut to size. Since you're using a clipboard, you'd want to make your positive a little longer so you can put it under the clip. Okay, so what we got? We've got whatever plant material you want to use, flower petals. I've used roses. The roses I used took 6 weeks. You can cut up leaves. You don't have to print on the leaves, but you want to grind it up. Grind it up nice and small. And then you're going to take a liquid, be it distilled water or isopropyl alcohol. You don't want to use denatured, it's got too many chemicals in it. So you've got your leaf material in there. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, next slide. So you pour in however much you think you're going to need. Look, look, look. Plug. And that's going to depend upon the size of print you want. Obviously, you're going to need more for an 8x10 than you are 4x5. But once it's in there, you continue grinding it up to, yeah, there you go, to get those chemicals in the water. And you can walk away and let it diffuse out for a while. Go have a cup of coffee, watch a TV program. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take some cheesecloth. Where's the cheesecloth? Oh, there it is. Or a coffee filter. Put it in a funnel. Strain your liquid through to filter out all the plant material. And then once you've got it, you're going to clean out your mortar again, put it back in. And then you're going to take a brush of some kind. I like foam brushes. You know, they're cheap, not necessarily reusable, but, and then you're going to soak it and you're going to soak your material. Make sure it's nice and coated. Now it's wet. Take it into the bathroom, turn off the lights because it's slightly photosensitive now. To dry it, take a hair dryer and once it dries, take it out and coat it again. Do this 2 or 3 times to get more material on it. Where are we at? Yeah, okay. Continue. Okay, then you're ready to put it in either your contact printer or your clipboard. Next. And we've gone over that. It's just showing you the backs on it. You put them in, and we'll do the springs and set it out in the sun. Now, if you are building one of these from scratch, you'll want glass. And the glass has to pass UV rays. A lot of the old photo processes depended upon UV rays, okay? So picture frame glass is probably not going to cut it. It's going to transmit very little UV. You go down to the hardware store and get some window glass, but again, you have to be careful. Now, what this is a cheap little UV detector. Okay. I read it as 10. Go ahead, let's see if we have the other read. And put it through a piece of behind a piece of glass that time. And I got 8.5. In other words, it transmitted 85% of the UV rays. which is good. Okay, you can do that same thing with the plastic. And if you're going to use the chlorophyll process, again, you can put the picture on the leaf and go ahead. Yeah, and then you just check it, and when it's done, you're fine. Same thing with the regular negative. Okay, I can live with that. Okay, go back one. That's a rose printed on a leaf. That's just the positive transparency, and that took about 3 or 4 days. The next one. This is the one of them I did using a rose petal, and came out a little light. And you can always play with it in Photoshop, darken it up, whatever. But as I said, nobody's been able to figure out how to save these things, so they're going to slowly fade away. You can be like Wedgeworth was in the early days of photography, dim light, want to see some pictures, Or, as I said, scan it, print it out on the material again, you've got your permanent one. Anything else? Okay, we got one more. I mentioned Herschel did cyanotypes, which are blue and white. You can make these, you can do it the hard way and go get chemicals, or you can go down to the Science Education Center and get sun paper. You might have it as cyanotype, but a popular brand is sun paper, and you order it off Amazon. Basically, the only differences there are, instead of a positive, you need to make a negative. You put it in contact, set it out in the sun, and this takes between 3 and 7 minutes, sometimes 10, depending upon the quality of your negative. Ooh, I like that. Run in, put it under running water to fix it. And again, I dry it and I scan it. You might want to pick up either some magnetic tape or some magnets to hold your plastic down so the wind doesn't blow it up and maybe change the registration. But it's really a pretty simple process. It just takes time. Any questions? No? Yeah. I suppose you could. Oh, you want to know if you could grind your plant material up in a blender? I guess you could. I'm not sure I'd want to do that to my blender, but yeah, yeah, yeah. You want those plant oils? Oh, yeah. You want to get the oils out of the plant material, so don't use the blender. Oh, and something else. When you're pouring this in, go ahead and take the cheesecloth and squeeze everything out. That's going to be a lot of concentrated liquid. And the nice thing about the cleanup is everything here is biodegradable. Just throw it in the trash. No harmful chemicals to worry about, you know. And again, have fun if you try it. If you got any questions, just email me. And as I said, if you want to, you can either pick up magnetic tape strips to hold your sheet down, or you can use magnets. I would recommend if you use magnets, take them off from the bottom first so you don't scratch your plastic. Any other questions? I've tried that, but I didn't get it to work. But then again, I was using rose petals, which takes 6 weeks. So. Oh, Dan wanted to know if I tried UV lights to try to speed this up. And the only UV light I could get was, for the terrariums. So I'm not sure how that wavelength is. Because you've got UVA, UVB, and UVC. So, and these don't read UVCs, just the A and B. Huh? No. So, yeah, you can try it. Let me know. But That's it. Dave? Thank you. I'm in Tokyo.
Okay, good evening. I'm Dave Carter, and I've been a member of the Wichita Area Camera Club for about 3 years now, going on 4. And tonight I'm going to do a presentation on Caffenol. Uh, this is a film development process. You have to bear with me because I've never developed film before. This is my very first time. Uh, and when we get into the recipe for the Caffenol, if anyone has any questions about the chemistry and all that, sorry folks, I'm not a chemistry major. So, uh, ask if you'd hold your comments or questions till the end of the presentation. So, okay, here we go. What is Caffenol? Caffenol is a developer which is a mixture of instant coffee, has to be caffeinated coffee, instant coffee, decaffeinated will not work, vitamin C or ascorbic acid. Vitamin C is ascorbic acid. I found it was cheaper to buy the vitamin C tablets and crush them up than it was just try to find the ascorbic acid. Uh, Baking soda, just regular Arm & Hammer baking soda, that will be cooked. I'll talk about cooking that down later to make soda ash. Ionized salt. Ionized salt takes the place of the potassium bromide, and it has to be ionized salt. Dishwasher soap. The dishwashing soap will work as a wetting agent when you're done. Final step, rinsing your film. Okay, and why use Caffenol? Uh, I wanted to shoot some small amounts of black and white film. I really didn't want to make a major investment in all the darkroom equipment. I didn't want to buy chemicals that would uh, deteriorate between the times that I'd use them. It's fairly friendly to the environment, all except for the fixer that you have to use. And the fixer I've been saving only because the fixer contains the silver that is left over after you've developed the film, when it's washed the film off. And then the purchased items that I bought for this, I bought a changing bag. I didn't know what a changing bag was. Maybe a lot of you film shooters do. It's just simply a bag, got armholes in each side with elastic, sets off all the light. The other end is Velcroed. Plus it has a zipper in here. So when you put all of your, we'll go through this in a little bit during the presentation, it's light proof. The Patterson tank. This is a Patterson System 4 tank, double reel, that I bought. This is where all the action takes place during the development. I bought nylon lint-free gloves for handling the negatives so I wouldn't get fingerprints on negatives. The negative sleeves to hold the negatives after I'm done so they don't scratch or get a lot of dirt on them, dust. And for the film, I used a Kodak Tri-X 400. I did buy a 12-inch dual scale thermometer because you have to be careful with your water temperature. Okay, now, most difficult part of this whole thing is getting the film onto the reels. I'm going to talk about that. Maybe some of you film shooters have done this back when you were kids, or maybe some of you still do it. I don't know. This is all brand new to me. Uh, I start by when I take the film out of the camera. My camera is an Canon EF1 manual crank. When I manually rewind the film, I slow down towards the end of the film counter. I can feel the tension release off that film when it pops off the take-up reel. At that time, I stop and remove the film from the camera. At that point in time, you have as much leader exposed as what you had when you wound that reel to begin with. Do this in dimly lit area, of course. The next step after that, back up one more. The next step after that is getting the film trimmed to where you can get it started on the reel. Now, if you are interested enough and research this online for the Caffenol process, they'll tell you to do all this inside the bag in total darkness. And they'll tell you that you need to practice with a roll of film. Forget it, just burn a roll of film and practice. Well, I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I couldn't come up where I could make a nice cut every time, all the time. It finally dawned on me, I've got all this leader on here. Just hang on to it, trim it square. Don't get in the sprocket holes. If you cut into a sprocket hole when you're trying to wind this onto this reel ratchets. It's got a ball bearing on either side of the reel. And if you get into one of those sprocket holes, you'll have a hard time getting the film started and ratcheting it around. So cut it square, nip a little corner off each end so you have a leader. Now, to get it onto the reel, when I do this part, I do open up the bag and just work in the back of the bag. It's in a dim lit room. I use the bag is open, but that's just to help cut out any extra light. Because when I start this, I have found that you want to get the gates. The gates are right here. And then I just pull the film on so far. Once I get it pulled on so far and started well, then I can start ratcheting. Start the ratcheting process when I get everything loaded in the bag and in the dark. Okay, now what you're going to put inside the bag. You're going to put the tank, the funnel, the reel. I put the reel on the sleeve, and I put it on. I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, you probably want to do different. I put it inside. I put a sleeve on the reel so that inside that bag, when it's all zipped up and my hands are inside that bag, and I can't open that bag anymore. If for one reason or other I drop this reel or whatever, I can find it again. And then you put in the second reel and the funnel, and you're going to want the bottle opener and a pair of scissors inside the bag. Everything's in the bag. Bag is closed and zipped. Everything's dark. Your arms are in the slots. Then I wind this up. Then you continue to ratchet this. Once I get it all ratcheted on, as I ratchet it on, I don't pull all this film out. I leave this so that I have I'm doing this backwards just so you can see what I'm saying here. Well, you can see here in the the film cartridge or canisters down there. I don't get this out of the canister till about the very last thing. I pull down so much, I reel it up, and my thumbs, I can tell when I hit this canister again. I keep doing it like that till I get it all on, and when I'm about like so, I can feel that I'm at the end of the film. Take the bottle opener, pop off the end of the canister. Do it up the opposite end from the spud, because at that time, once you get the top off of it, you can push the film out with your thumb, and you can grab it right on the very end. And of course, you don't want to touch on the film, but you can grab right on the end and pull it out of the canister. Continue reeling it up. And when you get to the very end, you'll take the scissors and you'll cut the take-up reel off and dispose of it. Just leave it laying in the bag. At that point, put everything into the tank. Pretend that film isn't there. You put your second reel on. The only reason you need this second reel, you can develop 2 reels at a time if you want to. The advantage to putting the second reel on when you drop the whole assembly in the tank is that during the agitation process, this will work as a stop and won't let the film reel slide up and down on the sleeve. So you drop that in and do it inside the bag. You're doing all this inside the bag. Drop all this in the bag. This is the funnel that eventually you're going to pour the developer through. Still inside the bag. You put that down and lock it. Once you've locked it, this becomes light tight. You don't have to put the lid back onto the tank. Boy, this is light tight. Now you can open the bag, take everything out, and you're ready to determine the developing time. If you look any of this stuff up online, none of the people on YouTube that I watched mentioned what film they were using. I knew what film I was using. I went to Kodak website and found all the developing information. I also read the footnotes. Footnote says anything 5 minutes or less for developing time, probably not going to be satisfactory. So I looked over here under small tank, which is what I'm using. I knew I was using 68 degree Fahrenheit water, 20 degrees Celsius. I dropped off the 4.5 and the 3 3/4. I just dropped that off. I added all that time together, took the average, came out with 7.7 minutes. That was my estimation on developing this stuff. Like I said, I've never done this before. I'll catch up with myself here. Okay. All right, there we are. This is the formula for the Caffenol. We'll run through this just real quick. I've got copies over here. If anybody wants to pick up a copy of this, I have copies with me. Basically, you're going to take 6 ounces of water, put in 5 teaspoons of instant coffee, a ½ teaspoon of vitamin C powder, and stir. You're going to dissolve 3½ teaspoons of soda ash and a ¼ teaspoon of the iodized salt and 6 ounces of water. Then you're going to mix these two together. And that's what's going to constitute your formula. That's what's going to constitute the formula for the developer. and then you're going to mix water and your fixer together to get a 12-ounce solution. The ratio on that will be the fixer that you use. Then you can pour the developer into the tank and wait 7.5 minutes and agitate accordingly. And then you're going to rinse it 3 or 4 times, agitating each time. And I'm just going to skip on through this because that's basically it. And then when you want to, one trick for getting the next one, please. Okay, this is the tips that I had. The soda ash, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat that for the baking. Heat the baking soda in the oven, 200 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour, and that'll convert the baking soda to the soda ash. Online, they were doing it a little longer than that and a little higher than that, and they were coming out, I'm saying they were burning their ash because it was turning brown. Oh, okay. So I looked this up on Google, of course, and that's what they said, 200 for an hour. And so that's what I went about 250 for an hour and a half, but I still had white soda ash. A quarter teaspoon of the iodized salt, that substitutes the potassium bromide, and water temperature 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's critical. That's also mentioned on the developing for the film, what the factory says to do. They give you different water temperatures. On the vitamin C capsules, I found that a pair of pliers works pretty good to start breaking them up. So I get them broke up with a pair of pliers, then I take a spoon and a dish, because I don't have a mortar and pestle. So this is what you wind up with. You wind up with the vitamin C and the coffee, the soda ash and salt, and then I do the filtration. When you filling the Patterson tank, I double filtered. I'll show you here in a minute. I double filtered because I found the first 2 negatives that I developed, first 2 rolls I developed, I found there were artifacts on the film. And I deduced that was probably the vitamin C, which had not been powdered up fine enough and dissolved. So I used the fine mesh kitchen strainer for the first filter, and then I used the same thing but put a little percolator paper coffee filter in it and do a second filtration. There's the first filtration. That's everything mixed together. There's the second filtration going through the coffee filter. Held it with a rubber band around the base of the little strainer. Then I dumped that into the tank. Okay. After everything's all said and done, and you want to take the film off the reel, you can't pull this off the reel. These reels come apart. Open it up, and of course, don't grab the film like I just did and pull it off. It will all be in a roll like that. It'll just dump. Okay, now I hang it up to dry. I can dry this in 2.5 hours, just by hanging. And then I cut up into 4 strips of 4 negatives. The scanning, I have a small light table that I ordered for Amazon for $30. Have white black core board that I cut a hole in, squared a hole, and made a guide to run the film slide over. Camera's hooked to the laptop. Yes, my tripod is leaning because that's a tilt and pan, an old tilt and pan tripod, and I want to be able to adjust to square up my camera. It's on just a cheap slide for up and down to help focus. Yes, there's a spring clamp on there because it's a cheap slide, and I didn't want to over tighten the slide, clamp on the slide, so I used the spring clamp so it wouldn't move. The lens is a 90 millimeter Tamron macro lens, and we're tethered, and that's how we shot. Okay. Now, I found that during doing this with this older camera, I have a tendency to have the trembles. So I have problems holding a film camera steady. Anything that doesn't have, it's not on a tripod or doesn't have a vibration control image stabilization system in the lens. So you're going to see some blur. A lot of the blur is operator error. Okay, developed for 8 minutes. You can see how dark the negative is. That's the negative. This is my positive after I worked on it. The next roll that I shot, I developed for 7 minutes. Well, you can see it's slightly underdeveloped. It's light. Okay. Now, after looking at those, I got smart. I said, well, I'm going to put this camera on a tripod. I'm going to use a timer to run the shutter, and I'm going to use a light meter. So I'm setting everything manual. 7 minutes, 30 seconds. And I got what I think, in my beginner's feelings, I think is a fairly nice negative. And then this is the image that I processed from the negative. When I scanned those, the negatives were all scanned at 1/60th of a second with an aperture of f4 and an ISO of 200. The last one there that I shot it at 1/500th of a second with an f16 and of course 400 ISO because that's what the film was. Okay, now conclusion. Personally, I thought the Caffenol process was a success. At least I got some images. And my last image, I didn't think looked too bad for no more than I knew about what I was doing. It was my first roll of film I ever developed. And I gained experience using a light meter, which I'd never done before, other than just a digital camera. And it's improved my skills using a film camera because I found out my shortcomings with it and learned to digitize a negative. I need a lot more practice manipulating the tone curve on the processing of the positive image. And this was all this was done on Photoshop Elements. I think I may try using Canon's Digital Photo Professional, which I have Canon cameras, because their film curve is more professional. Okay, if anybody's interested, I'll lay this out. There's the actual image. We'll pass that around. Okay.
All right. want to say for the Zoomers, because they can't hear what's going on in the room. So we're going to end the meeting because we need to be out of here by 8:30. We are going to meet up at Old Chicago for anybody that's interested. We can sit outside if there's seats available. Should be nice out. If anybody on Zoom has any questions, if you'll email those to me, I will get them to Dave or Steve, and we'll get the answers for you. I appreciate you guys coming to the meeting. If you have any problems, hear anything, let me know, and we'll see you next month.